Good day to you, and thank you very much for being here. Last time I said in this episode I'm going to concentrate on the Israeli illegal settlements in and around the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. According to Israeli statistics, prior to 1948, there were 80 kibbutzim, which the Israelis then called their settlements. By 1948, the entire land holding of the Zionists in Palestine was under 6%. Those kibbutz were slotted on the coastal plains of Palestine for a purpose. They were all in preparation of what's to come, the building of a Jewish state and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. And the 1947 UN partition plan, which gave the Jews 56% of the land, and to us 43%, and Jerusalem the remainder 1%, followed the contours of these kibbutz or settlements. In 1967, as you all know, the entire landmass of Palestine was under Israeli control. And they went about establishing settlements with alacrity. Though after the Six-Day War, there was a Resolution 242 of the United Nations which prohibited the building of land and which will compel Israel to give back all the land they occupied in 1967 for the purpose of establishing a Palestinian state next door to Israel on 22% of the landmass of Palestine. But of course, Israel wanted nothing of the sort. They agreed on paper, they say yes, and they sign, and they went about creating facts on the grounds. By 1992, when the Israelis and the Palestinians started to talk peace, there were about 30 illegal settlements in and around Palestine and the Gaza Strip, and about 10 to 15 illegal outposts. The Americans wanted the Israelis to talk peace to the Palestinians, which they call it peace for land. The then Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Shamir, did not want even to talk peace or signing agreements with the Palestinians because to them we did not exist. And they thought they had the upper hand, and why compromise? George Bush, the father, who was then the president of the United States of America, compelled them to go to the talks in the Madrid conference by withholding $10 billion of loan guarantees that Israel has asked for to build housing. The 22% of Palestine that they were negotiating over was meant to be the new Palestinian state. Shamir was not having it. He said in an interview with the New York Times on the 27th of June 1992 that he would drag the negotiations for over a decade, during which the population of these settlements will be increased from 110,000, as I said last time, to over 500,000, which they did. Shamir lost the elections, Rabin was elected, and in September of 1993, the Israeli government and the PLO signed the shameful and the unbelievably unbalanced Oslo Accords. What Israel gave to the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, is yes, you can have autonomy in the West Bank and Gaza, no mention of a government and no mention of independence, while the PLO has recognized Israel's right to exist and gifted them 78% of the land mass of Palestine. So you can see the imbalance here. Every single prime minister since Netanyahu in 1996 until now has encouraged, financed, and promised more settlements, more outposts for Israeli citizens to go and live in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip against international law. And that happened with every prime minister, including the current one. The outposts were just a group of far-right, belligerent Israeli citizens, mainly from religious right, who will run to the top of a hill somewhere in Palestine, put up a tent or a shack, and call it an outpost. These outposts are actually illegal under Israeli law. But the Israeli governments not only look the other way when they're happening, but they secrete money and equipment to those illegal belligerent settlers and arms. And they come and protect them when the Palestinians object, like is going now all over Palestine and few hilltops in the West Bank. Under international law, Israel is not allowed to confiscate land and create facts on the ground and move its own citizens into them. But that's what they do, create facts on the ground and move their citizens into them and give them every single protection, including these settlements and outposts are ruled under Israeli civil law, while we, the Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation, are ruled under military law. After the 1967 war and the Resolution 242, that was meant to be a land for peace, the Israelis made settlements as their hallmark. The reason? They wanted to destroy any possibility of the Palestinians having any state on any part of Palestine. The settlements were chosen strategically, were built, housed. Some of them actually now are small towns or cities. They have schools, they have hospitals, they have even universities. So how is the Palestinian state going to exist when you have about a dozen cities or towns in the middle of it? They have actually destroyed the possibility of establishing a Palestinian state. And only this morning, one Minister of State of Israel made a comment after Mr. Abbas met with Mr. Gantz, the Defense Minister of Israel, in which he said that Mr. Gantz and Mr. Abbas discussed the economy, improving of the Palestinian condition in the West Bank. Policies were not discussed, and politics was not discussed and will never be discussed. So there you have it. The Palestinian state, as Mr. Abbas still pursues, is dead and buried. There is no way Israel is going to allow the creation of a Palestinian state, nor allow one Palestinian to return as per UN resolutions, not until and unless their main benefactor, the United States of America, will decide to do the right and the moral things. But judging by the recent visit of the current Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett to Mr. Joe Biden, I don't think that will happen anytime soon. At the moment, as I'm talking to you, there are 150 illegal settlements in Israel, housing 750,000 illegal settlers. If you're a Palestinian and you need to build a home or expand your current home, you can go to hell and back and not get a building permit. And if you, as a Palestinian, through exasperation, decided to build without a permit, they compel you to demolish your own home, and they give you the bill for it. And this is what they call the only democracy in the Middle East. Thank you very much for listening. Bless you.